Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream. This will also be a podcast that I've partnered with Chris on. So Chris, and he'll have to say his last name once he introduces himself because I'm gonna jack it up. I just know how I am. But he owns a coaching company. I own a coaching company. We're both leadership coaches, and we've decided to bring some cool stuff to the world for all of you by doing an every other week podcast that streams into our platforms when we host. So, um, yeah, Chris, you want to introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce myself afterwards.
Yeah, thanks, JJ. My name is Chris Pankowski, and I'm the founder of Straight Arrow Coaching. Uh, if you can't tell from the accent, I'm from Philadelphia. And what we do at Straight Arrow is we work with mainly growth stage companies, and we work with founders, emerging leaders, and first time managers making that transition into a leadership role. We also do private one-on-one coaching for people in all aspects of their careers.
Cool. Well, thank you, Chris. I'm JJ Hardy. As I said, I own Victory Leadership Coaching. I know you can see it in the captions, but if you hear this on the podcast, it's not going to be so clear. So, and I do very similar things. I have really three separate types of services that I offer. I offer online self-paced leadership training that you can access through my website. I offer I have done in-person training as well. It's all the same topics though, mainly for first-time leaders, and I am creating an online course uh, for a more advanced one for senior and mid-level managers that teaches decentralized leadership and how to turn it into a culture. I also offer one-on-one coaching, and then I offer group coaching, and that's for culture, and that's to help you as a business owner or maybe a director to turn your team or your organization into uh, a decentralized leadership structure with a focus on having everyone there as a servant leader. You got to turn it into a culture, or it doesn't work. All right. So today we really just wanted to kind of go into what our businesses are, why we're doing what we're doing, and kind of give some background on us as people so that hopefully as you continue listening to our joint podcast together, you know that you can learn more. You'll know us already, and we're everything we say, it'll make a lot more sense. So again, as the host for the day, I'm gonna let Chris go first. So Chris, you want to give us a little bit of your background and why you started your business?
Sure. So, background wise, like I said, I'm a Philly guy, born and raised Philly guy, and career wise, I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was 16. Um, and I was in that part of my career, starting and running companies from the time I was 16 until I was 31. When I was 31, I made a shift and got into leading turnarounds. I've done turnarounds in companies ranging from privately held $5 million a year to publicly traded corporations, and did that for 13 years. And in 2018, I exited my last turnaround, and I was really reflecting on what's next, right? What's the next opportunity? Am I, you know, putting my name out there to be considered for another turnaround role or what? And I really came to the conclusion that I have two passions in life from a professional and personal standpoint. And it was always about leadership. Um, Whenever I went into a turnaround situation, my goal was always to not only come in and solve a business problem, but to prepare the next person to take over my job, to prepare them to lead the organization. And with that in mind, I said, you know what? That's where I want to go for this like next final third of my career. Um, I want to help people be better leaders, better business owners, and that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. And uh, it's probably the best part of my career so far. I really love watching people grow. I love sharing the knowledge that I built up for 20 years prior, and seeing it put into action by other people. So that's that's really me kind of in a nutshell. On the personal side, I've got 3 boys, 3 teenage boys who eat me out of house and home. I'm happy that they're back in school now because summer food bills are just through the roof. Um, and all the activities and all that good stuff. But 3 boys, they're all very active, all very different in who they are. I like to say I've got the triple A, I've got the academic, the athlete, and the actor. And so they're all running around doing their own things, keeping me and my wife busy. I've got 2 dogs. And this weekend, actually, my wife and I will be celebrating our 23rd wedding anniversary. So, been around the block. Yeah, thank you. And, the things that I like to do kind of outside of work, um, we love being outside. We love going camping. I love being out in nature, hiking, camping, outdoor stuff. I'm a car nut. I love getting out there in my Mustang and just kind of that's one of my ways to relax. And I also have been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years, and I like to joke that I relax by choking other people. So
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so that's me in a nutshell, man. I've been fascinated with leadership since I was a little kid, starting in the Boy Scouts, and it's just grown and developed over time. And that's really where my heart is, where my passion is.
So pardon my ignorance, but what's a turnaround?
A turnaround is a company or maybe an operating division of a larger company is failing, and they need someone to come in and figure out why are we failing? Is our business model jacked up? Do we not have the right people? Are we not servicing the right market? So it's really coming around. It's being called into a sinking ship and asking to not only bail it out, but figure out how do we fix the ship so that it doesn't sink again.
Wow. So business has just been like a lifelong passion and journey for you then.
Yeah.
That I did not know about you. But
Yeah.
okay, cool. Um Makes me even more exciting to be on a podcast with you.
Yeah. Well, now we're going to get into you. I mean,
Yeah.
let's
Um
talk about JJ.
so I started my business as a leadership coach, really for similar reasons that you did. That I just love helping people learn and grow. But my passion, it came about a career in the military. I served 18 years in the U.S. Army,
Mhm.
and I'll go into that in a second. But what's been the most important thing in my life is to learn how to be successful. And that comes from me growing up in a background where you were lucky enough to have the opportunity to start a business when you were 16. I was bouncing around between households of not just my parents but other family members because things just weren't so great. And I'm not going to go into all of that. I lived out of my truck for a while, and I didn't really have any mentorship growing up until now. I'll fast forward back to what I was saying before, until I entered the military.
Mhm.
that provided me not only with a supportive platform, but I was blessed over my 18 years of service to have people surrounding me that constantly, the teach, coach, mentor model is what the military says they have, especially the U.S. Army. But the people that I had, that I worked for, they really embodied that. And, they were always helping me prepare for the next level, not only in my job, but in my life. The military is not just a job, it's a lifestyle. So I really took that to heart. And then it came about when, in about 2007, I took my first leadership position, and I had the opportunity to go to what's called the Warrior Leaders Course. And, everyone would talk about this works, that works. Well, they broke it down into an entire strategy on how to be a leader, all the processes that you need to put in place for everything that you do to make sure you're constantly teaching, coaching, and mentoring your people on a constant basis. And not only did that like spark in my brain, but I started taking every course I could to help me develop that throughout the years. And it just turned into a passion for me. And I've never had a person working for me that, they would, they will all tell you that they did not work for JJ. They worked with JJ. They were a member of my team, and they were a part of my journey. And so the military also has the decentralized leadership command structure. And all that does is it teaches people how to be responsible and take ownership for everything in their sphere of influence. And it also takes that decision making and it spreads it out through the entire chain of command, so that at every level you have a team of independent people that are not necessarily uh, working at other levels. I mean, if a task is passed down, you get the opportunity to own it, plan it, develop it, execute it, nurture it, everything. And if it goes right, you did something right. If it goes wrong, don't push the blame, own that stuff. And I mean, it's not practiced in the civilian workforce as much as it should be. And it's a winning formula if I can sell it. So if I can help people at the smaller to medium-sized businesses do that, well, now that's where I get into victory leadership coaching, because if I can take an organization and help them develop a model that will help that will allow them to sustain success and really nurture the idea of creating thought leaders in their organization, that it's going to bring about good things. And I like the idea of teaching other people what I know, because I didn't have anybody showing me from a young man basically until I put on the uniform, and the uniform turned me into a different person. And everybody will tell anybody that knows me before, during, and after will tell you that that's really where the big turnaround came from, because I always knew when I was a kid that there's got to be another way. And the other way was shown to me. And don't get me wrong, the military does not make you rich or super successful. That's not what it's designed to do, but it does show you that if you can develop the mentality to fight and win, and then bring a bunch of people together that want to do the same thing, you're going to be able to kick the crap out of just about anything you got to tackle.
Yep.
So that's my journey, man.
Yeah. It's, for me, when my first business was kind of started by accident. I was actually working in a gas station when I was 16, and I've been fascinated with cars since I was a little boy. My dad was into kind of sports cars, but I had two uncles that were into muscle cars. So growing up, like I'm a muscle car fan. So I just happened to be washing my car, right? I was on the clock, and I'm working at this gas station on Saturday, washing my car, and this customer comes in, walks past me and says, "Hey, my car's next. Where should I park it?" And I just said, "You know what? Tell me where you live and I'll come detail your car at your house." And that person turned into my first customer. And I was like, "Hey, I could be going to people's houses and detailing cars." And that's where it kind of started. So it was just kind of out of a passion. I was doing something and just took the initiative. But I grew up, and I'm pretty transparent about it these days, but I didn't have a whole lot of guidance growing up either. I come from a family that has been in the construction trades for 4 generations. Um, Growing up, college was never talked about. It was one of these like colleges for rich people. Our family swings hammers and learn a trade. You'll have security for life. I actually went to a vocational high school and studied to be a carpenter. And at that time, no one else in my family before me had any formal training in the trades. It was, you got OTJ, right? Or OJT,
OJ,
on the
that's
job
okay. I
training.
understood what you meant.
And yeah. And I mean, I started going on construction sites with my dad and my uncles when I was probably 10, 11 years old. I was the gopher, right? Go for this, go for that. Um, and I actually didn't go to college until I was 26. I was a freshman when I was 26 years old and graduated when I was 30 because I'd gotten through some, my entrepreneurial stuff early on. And I was like, I really don't want to swing a hammer. I want to learn about business and I want to really learn about leadership. So I was fortunate to go to school. And even in school, I started another company. So I was a full-time student, I was a full-time entrepreneur, but the path, I wouldn't change it. You know, Looking back, if I had gone to college when I was 18, it probably would have been a waste of time and money. So I'm happy that I went in there with some experience. Definitely helped with what I was learning because I could apply real world things to what the professors were teaching. And dude, it's been awesome ever since.
Well, you were definitely a go getter from a young age. When I was 16, I think I was just trying to keep my head above water. It wasn't until I met my grandmother's neighbor right across the street, who was an army recruiter.
Okay.
He came up to me at a campsite and said, "Dude, you're going nowhere. What is your plan?" And I'm like, "I don't know, to get through this beer." and he
Living
and
for
he
the
waited.
moment.
What's that?
Living for the moment.
Living for the moment, working for the weekend,
Yep.
Um, but he found me when I wasn't camping, and he talked to me, about this option of, changing my environment and how that could benefit me, and he sold me on that. A recruiter selling somebody. Go figure.
Right.
No, but he's a great guy, and I still look at him as a mentor. And he got me into something that completely transformed my life. And I'll be honest with you, if I wouldn't have done that, I probably would have been fighting and been angry for a very, very long time, because I didn't, when you're surrounded in an environment with other people that don't know how to get out of it, it's hard to understand how to get out of it yourself.
Yeah.
And God brought me to him, man. I don't really talk about my religion too much when I'm advertising myself online, but I truly believe that he brought Rob to me so that I could find a way out of where I was. And I kind of owe everything to him, to be quite honest with you, because I it was a great journey from there on, and I wouldn't change any of it for the world, except for when I became a senior guy in the military and I didn't get to see my family very often.
Okay.
I think that's just kind of the natural adaptation of being a service member, especially in a country that's deploying all the time on a constant basis.
Yeah.
But,
So
same as
outside of
you. Go ahead.
outside of the leadership stuff and what you do for work, what do you do in your personal life? What what makes you tick?
What makes me tick? My
Yeah.
family. I'm married to a massage therapist. That's what she is now. But she's wonderful. She's a military brat. Grew up in the military environment and met me at my first duty station. Thank God.
Okay.
Um, and I have two teenage children, and that's part of what that's part of the reason why I started a business, because if I can show them that you can be successful on your own without going through, I did go through a lot as a soldier, and if without going through all of that, just taking an idea and running with it, then they can do it too. And if I can conquer life from where I came from, then anybody can conquer life.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, taking that into the neighborhoods and everything like that. I volunteer a lot, so I bring that to different not schools yet. I'm almost there, but I've gone to Kiwanis and I've talked over at schools, elementary schools, and talked to kids, and I'm working on a couple high schools around here because I just love to share that story, because a lot of these kids, they're gonna be in that situation as well very quickly.
You're right. One of the things that I do, I also volunteer. I've been I've been civic minded for a really long time, and whether it's volunteering in the community or for organizations, um, but I share my story with people to let them know that nothing is beyond your reach. Um, you know, I'm a kid that, or I was a kid who grew up. Our family, by today's standards, would probably be considered working poor.
Hmm.
We lived in a row house in a working class neighborhood in Philadelphia, in the city. Our house was 1,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 5 people. Like there was, I didn't have a lot of direction either. And to come from where I grew up to go to school where I did, I don't say this to brag. I really don't even talk about it that much, but when I was 26, I became a freshman at the Wharton School. And, you're talking one of the best business schools in the entire world. So when I talk to young people and they want to give me a woe is me story, I share my story. Hey, you know what? This is how I grew up. This is where I ended up. And it was all a result of hard work, looking for angles, looking for other ways to get things done. Um, the the straight path is not the true path. People think that growth happens like this, but growth is a jagged edge. And if you're not being resourceful, and if you're not looking for different ways to achieve it, if you don't have it in your heart to achieve it, then it's going to be difficult. But if you're open minded and you're willing to get creative, then sky's the limit.
Hmm.
Um, one of the volunteer things that I do is my kids are luckily in a charter school. Um, they didn't have to go to the public schools in Philadelphia. So I am on the board of trustees for that charter school. And I wanted to do that to make a difference. And the school has grown in the 8 years that I've been on the board, and we service almost 6,000 kids across the entire city of Philadelphia, across 3 campuses. And recently, in the past 2 years, I've become our school's liaison to the Army. So I work with the Army, not just from the recruiting standpoint, but we're officially a community partner of the Army. We work with Skill Bridge. We work with a bunch of different programs for like the Soldier of Life program, Soldier for Life. So people exiting the military and like, hey, I've always thought about being a teacher. I've always thought about you know doing something with kids. We create that bridge there, but at the same time, the benefit to those kids, to a lot of those kids who are from inner city families, not maybe not a household with both mom and dad, sometimes they're being raised by grandparents, to have those service members being there for them and providing guidance, and then the recruiters and folks like that coming in. I mean, seeing that difference is pretty wild, and it's so fulfilling.
You know, you're right. That helps because when I separated from the military in 2018, we left and went to military to Virginia. We helped out my wife's father. He had dementia and diabetes, but I kind of got lost a little bit for a little while because I transitioned, and then when I started applying for jobs again, it's a very difficult uh, it's a difficult thing to transition because the civilian workforce doesn't really understand what you did when you were in the military. And so I had to go through that. I did go work for somebody first. I mean, I worked for the military for my whole adult life. And so the natural transition for me was to go to work for another company. And I
Right.
did. I worked for 3 and I wasn't happy. But getting to the point where I got my first one, I think it was close to 8 or 9 months after I started applying for that first job. And all of all of these places, they said I was either overqualified or they didn't know what to do with my experience, which I don't understand the concept of somebody being overqualified. You should be jumping up and down if somebody's overqualified, because if they're wanting to work for your company, they can bring something to the table.
Exactly.
But um anyway, it took a while, and the fact that I didn't know you were a volunteer and you were kind of part of that Soldier for Life program.
Mhm.
It's a wonderful thing. That is something that we'll have to talk about offline, because if I could bring something from that program back into my local community over here, I would love to do it, because it really is a tough process. But what you're doing is you're giving them a new mission.
Right.
And for a soldier to transition from the military, it means that you no longer have a mission. And so if you are providing that, you're doing so much more than you know. And you're doing something for these guys and gals, or I guess what they want to identify as these days, to go out there and really make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we did when we served. And so thank you for doing that. I When you said that, it everything else that was on my mind, it just kind of went away, because that is such a powerful thing. I wanted to make sure I commented on that. But I did grow up with similar upbringings. I said I lived in my truck for a while, and I actually bounced around from house to house because we kind of lived on welfare. And you said you guys worked super super hard for a living and afforded 1,000 square foot house. Well, we kind of took whatever the government would give us and we kind of rolled with it. And sometimes that wasn't in the best of neighborhoods. We
Mhm.
had 3 of the places that I lived in, we were staying in an environment where we had all the outcasts from Chicago. And
Okay.
that was interesting. So yeah, giving back to the community is important. And those underserved communities, like what you're talking about, the people that don't have all the opportunities, it's great to give back to them. I use Kiwanis as a way to get into those communities, because they volunteer in the one that I'm part of, in a community where it's the school itself. It's an elementary school and a middle school, but they serve like most of the low income population in the area. And since that's kind of where I came from, my story, it settles with people a lot more. I think that if I went to the high income school neighborhood, the schools with the high income and all that, my story wouldn't resonate with a lot of those people. They'd be like,
That's
"Oh,
possible.
you're like that guy over there that I make fun of every day," or something like that. But
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in high school, that's how kids think, or middle school.
It is.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the fact, man, you really volunteer for the Soldier for Life program.
Yeah.
Glad I met you.
Yeah.
So our stories kind of align, and I'm glad that we're here together.
Me
So
too.
thank you for doing the podcast. But yeah,
Oh, this is
I
awesome.
I think that as we move forward with these podcasts, I think we'll find that as we discuss different topics, I know we've been working on that. I think that we're going to find that our mission aligns even more.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll even learn a little bit about business from you, because it seems like that's like your whole life.
It has been. Yeah.
I didn't know that either. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yeah. It's wild. And, when I think about kind of my story, and I know we're getting ready to wrap it up here soon. But growing up in a, kind of a rough neighborhood, like I was in street fights growing up. I got jumped. I got jumped multiple times. I had a bike stolen from me at knife point. Like, and those things are all, they build the character. And I think that I've got, a level of street smarts that really adds to my ability to help lead people. And, it gives me, it was so different when I went to school, because at school, the vast majority of my classmates were, came from well-off families. They didn't have those kind of experiences. And, seeing the difference in, like, man, the way that you trust people, the way that you approach people. I definitely see the benefits in the way that I was raised, and in the environment that I was raised. And I never cry about it. It's like, dude,
should.
you take what didn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And how do you apply that going forward in life? I've got a philosophy of, it's not a win or lose, it's a win or learn. And you've got to learn from every opportunity and apply it however you can going forward. And just, be hard to kill. And that's
Hard
that's
to
how I
kill.
live life.
That's right. Tornado through it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I agree. It's very similarly. I say there's no such thing as failure. There are only opportunities to learn.
100%.
So I agree with what you're saying. And those kids, just that's why it's even more important to talk to the kids, because they are already in that mentality where they have to do things that are unethical to get what they want.
Sometimes
And
you're right.
there's another way. The fact that you rose above that, I rose above that, the message that we have for these kids, it's absolutely to show them that there is another way. I mean, you don't have to sell drugs.
Right.
You don't have to go and hurt other people and take from them in order to have something that other person might have. I mean, you can go out there, and just with your good graces and your ability to communicate with others, you can go and get it yourself
Yep.
without stealing it.
That's right.
I want to be clear, without
That's right.
stealing it.
Yeah. Go out and earn it.
Go out and earn it. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everybody who's listening, that's kind of our background. I look forward to all the conversations that we're going to have about other stuff, because moving forward, it's not about me and Chris. It's about leadership. It's about communication, and it's about making not you, but everyone around you better, so that you and them, everyone can be successful as a result of it. And we're going to be doing that with multiple topics, and I think it's going to be a good time.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm happy that we were able to kind of get this first one done. The first time you do anything, whether it's recording a podcast, doing a live like this, we're blowing the dust off of it, and, getting into a groove. But you're right. Going forward, we're going to be talking about leadership topics. We're going to be talking about how to apply those principles of leadership, not just in business, but in life, and just sharing the message. And, I'm so excited to be doing this on a regular cadence, doing these lives every other week, and really just getting the word out there. To me, this isn't about trying to bring customers to Straight Arrow Coaching as much as it is about education.
Yeah, I agree.
Same with my own podcast, which is called Straight Talking Leadership. It's all about bringing knowledge and sharing that information. And if someone finds us on here, wants to retain one of us for our leadership coaching, rock and roll, let's go. But that's not the primary driver here.
No.
The primary focus is to bring knowledge and education to people.
I agree. If you're a servant, you're out there to help others. And right. There are leadership styles there are many leadership styles, but to make leadership work and to truly be a leader, you have to be a servant to others. So giving back, I'm retired from the military. If I really wanted to go make millions of dollars, I would probably go into another field, because this one takes a while to grow as a business. But,
right.
It's a passion. And I've seen how much these principles can change a life. So I'm hoping that even if somebody's not willing to pay for coaching or education, that they tune into this, and something that one of us says, it hits with them, and they go and apply these things into their not just work, because that's only part of it. Leaders apply these concepts and principles in their day-to-day life, because it's about how you interact with your friends. It's about how you interact with your family. But then, in order to make all of those things work, you have to have a job. So you need to apply these things where you work as well.
That's right.
And whether or not they want to hire anybody, I don't care. But please let these concepts stick in your head, so that if you are a guy who focuses on tasks and statistics at work, or if you're focused on everything that your family or friends are doing, how it hurts you, or if it's you, well, if you turn it around, everybody's going to have a better relationship, and your work environment will be better as a result of it as well. And that's really the secret sauce to life. If you want, you have to give. So please, if you don't get anything else from this call, understand that it's not about you. It's not about you. And it's not about you. So
true.
Thank you so much, Chris.
And this was awesome.
Yep. And in a couple of weeks, we'll do it again.
That's right.
All right. Well, take care of yourself, buddy.
All right, man. I'll see you. Have a great weekend. See you, everybody.
If I can get my mouse to work. Okay.